You're not powerless in those moments, but you do need a framework that keeps you from swinging between extremes. They are usually only four options, not 400. That clarity comes from analysis, not from emotional momentum. Because when you're anxious, the default extremes are I'm fine, it's fine, I'll just tolerate it. Option mapping is basically the bridge between noticing and acting. You don't have to stay trapped between tolerate everything and cut everyone off. I didn't take calls, I didn't meet up, and I let people know until the situation is figured out and it dissolves itself. I'm not answering calls or doing meetups. Okay, so the first video was pattern over promise. The last video was behavior lag. And this video is about the moment a lot of people actually want to skip. Because once you see the data, the next question is always, okay, so what do I do? And that's where option mapping comes in. Option mapping piggybacks off everything we've already built: landmarks, internal and external, the trust jar, what behavior has earned and what behavior has cost, and the idea that clarity comes from analysis, not from emotional momentum. Option mapping is basically the bridge between noticing and acting. And I want to say this up front because the internet is allergic to nuance. This is not just leave content. This is not cut people off culture. This is not isolation masquerading as healing. Also, it's not stay no matter what. So, all we're doing today is laying out the options you have when you notice someone disrespected a boundary, someone crossed the line, someone didn't do what they said they would do, or someone stayed passive and did nothing, and the nothing became the pattern. You're not powerless in those moments, but you do need a framework that keeps you from swinging between extremes. Because when you're anxious, the default extremes are I'm fine, it's fine, I'll just tolerate it. Or I'm done, you're dead to me, goodbye forever. And neither of those is discernment. Discernment is measured. Let me tell you why this framework matters to me personally. A few years ago, my family went through a rough situation in our home. It wasn't something I expected, and it hit every area of the family dynamic. There was framing, and that framing attacked me as a person, as a mother, as a wife. And it attacked my husband too. It questioned his integrity. So I looked at the options available to me and I decided something that felt drastic. I took an enormous step back. I shut open access down. I didn't take calls, I didn't meet up, and I let people know until the situation is figured out and it dissolves itself, I'm not answering calls or doing meetups. Some people respected that immediately. Other people were upset. They didn't understand why I would do something so drastic, but I didn't do it lightly and I did do it quickly. Because in my mind, I needed space to assess who was for us and who wasn't. And that was the only way I could do it. And that decision cost me some relationships, but it also clarified something that I couldn't see clearly in the moment. It showed me what it looks like when people are truly in your corner. The people who stood with us didn't villainize anyone. They didn't judge. They did ask questions for clarity. They listened, they questioned, they suggested options, and they were honest about what was being said. And the thing that mattered most is they knew who we were and what we stood for. So they weren't easily manipulated by noise. That helped me tremendously. And hindsight is 2020. And I can see the data now. I can see who respected my boundaries, who punished me because of the boundaries, who needed access to feel in control, and who could stay supportive without constant contact. That's what option mapping did for me. It gave me a way to protect my family and my mind long enough to see reality. Hi, love. Before you go, if you want something you can actually work through off camera, I have a free Guard Your Proximity guide linked below. It's simple, it's grounding, and it gives you a starting point when you can feel yourself slipping into confusion. And here's the fun part: when we hit 100 subscribers, I'm celebrating with a giveaway. The reward is the full Guard Your Proximity workbook. This is a complete extensive PDF that goes deeper and walks you through how to guard your proximity and stay grounded. So, if you want that reward unlocked, subscribe and share the channel with someone who'd get value from this. The faster we hit 100, the faster the giveaway drops. Consider this my thank you for building this with me reward. Now let's get back to the video. So here's the definition in plain language. Option mapping is looking at the options you actually have once you've identified the landmarks and checked the trust jar. It's when you stop asking, how do I feel, as your main driver, and you start asking, what is true? What has repeated? What do I have the capacity to engage? What are my options that don't violate my own boundaries? What are the consequences of each option? And here's the key: they are usually only 4 options, not 400. And when you don't map them, your brain acts like it's stuck in a maze. That's when you get decision fatigue, overthinking, spiraling, and all of that. Option mapping is how you reduce the chaos. Okay, so here are the 4 options. I'm going to define them the way I mean them, not in an internet hot take way. Option 1, stay and accept. Stay and accept means looking at the patterns and deciding you will keep going, knowing change won't come. There is no expectation. And I want to be honest, this option isn't morally wrong. Sometimes people choose it for practical reasons. Sometimes it's a season of life. Sometimes it's a choice people make because the consequences of leaving are heavier than staying. But the key is, if you choose stay and accept, you stop acting shocked when the pattern repeats. You stop negotiating with it. You stop hoping it will become something else. You decide, I can live with this, and you take responsibility for that. That's the difference between acceptance and denial. Option 2, confront and observe. Confront and observe means communication is used to see what the other person will do. Will they adjust, apologize, or continue like nothing was stated or communicated? This option is not about begging. It's not about convincing. It's not about forcing. It's communication as a tool for data, because the content of what someone says matters, but the pattern of what they do after you speak matters more. So, with confront and observe, you're watching. Do they correct? Do they dismiss? Do they minimize? Do they retaliate? Do they become accountable? Do they become slippery? You're not looking for perfection. You're looking for integrity. Option 3, create distance. Create distance is taking a step back to reassess things. This is what I did. This is the option people judge the most because people feel entitled to access. But create distance is not punishment. It's not the silent treatment. It's not, I'm doing this to hurt you. It's, I need space to stabilize and see clearly. Distance creates room for your nervous system to settle. It reduces noise. It lets patterns show themselves without you constantly managing them. And it shows you who respects your boundaries even when they don't like them. Option 4, exit cleanly. Exit cleanly is finality. It's letting the person know things cannot continue and it might be best to part ways. And I want to say this really clearly. Finality is not a casual decision because finality means you cannot keep reopening doors every time you miss someone. Finality means you're done negotiating access. And I think people sometimes choose exit cleanly too fast because they want relief. But relief and clarity are not always the same thing. Exit cleanly should be chosen when the pattern is clear, the cost is high, and the relationship is no longer safe or workable to sustain. No drama, no slander campaign, no scorched earth. Clean. Now, I need to put a boundary around boundaries because this is where people get messy. We should keep trust to our boundaries, but we should not weaponize the boundaries we set. Boundaries are not for punishing people. Boundaries are for protecting truth, safety, clarity, and stability. And consequences should be clear and fair. If you deem something unacceptable, disrespectful, crossing the line, okay, that's real. But you also want to assess a few things. Was this malicious? Was this confusion? Was this a capacity issue? Was this a misunderstanding? Was this a pattern? Because it's possible to have a boundary violation that's a one time issue. And it's possible to have boundary violations that are part of someone's operating system. And those require different responses. Option mapping helps you avoid premature finality. It helps you avoid emotional overcorrection. And it helps you avoid staying stuck just because you don't want to be seen as harsh. So, how do you know which option to choose? This is where landmarks and the trust jar come back in. When you're choosing an option, ask 2 questions. What are my inner landmarks right now? Am I anxious? Am I flooded? Am I feeling urgency? Am I feeling fear of disappointing people? If you're flooded, you might choose exit cleanly because you want the anxiety to stop. This is not discernment. That's relief seeking. So if your inner landmarks are screaming, your first step may be to regulate before choosing. The second question, what are my external landmarks? What has actually happened? What has repeated? What do I know as fact? What don't I know? And then the trust jar question, are marbles being added or removed consistently? Because if the trust jar is steadily losing marbles and you keep choosing stay and accept while expecting change, you're going to stay confused. Option mapping forces you to align your expectations with reality. Let me ask you a few questions that might help you locate which option you're living with right now. Are you currently staying but still expecting change? Have you communicated clearly, but you're not watching what happens after? Do you keep going back into full access when trust hasn't been rebuilt? Do you feel like you're constantly managing someone else's emotional reaction to your own boundaries? Have you been tempted to choose finality just because you're tired? And here's a really important one. If you step back, do you believe people will respect it or punish you for it? Because the answer to that question is also data. This is also where guard your proximity is still relevant because the people around you influence which option feels allowed. If you have the wrong voices around you, you'll feel guilty for creating distance. You'll feel guilty for asking questions. You'll feel guilty for observing instead of rushing to explain. You'll feel guilty for not handing out full access. And sometimes those voices aren't even in your life. Sometimes it's just the content you consume. Guarding your proximity is about making sure the voices around you help you stay grounded, safe, and accountable, not chaotic, not performative. Because option mapping requires you to be able to think, and thinking requires space. So here's what I want you to leave with after this video. You don't have to stay trapped between tolerate everything and cut everyone off. You have options. And those options become clear when you stop using emotion as the driving factor and you start using landmarks and patterns as your map. Here are the 4 options again: stay and accept, confront and observe, create distance, and exit cleanly. And the goal isn't to pick the best one like it's a personality test. The goal is to pick the one that matches reality and protects your peace without weaponizing boundaries. So here's a simple practice for this week. Pick one situation you've been overthinking and name some of these items. Name one inner landmark, name one external landmark, and then ask, which option am I already living in, even if I haven't admitted it yet? Because a lot of clarity comes from naming what you're already doing. In the next video, we're going to talk about data versus narrative, the stories we tell ourselves to stay comfortable, and why potential isn't data. But for now, map your options and breathe. You don't have to decide everything today. You just have to see clearly. All right, I'll see you in the next lab session. Thank you so much for watching and spending time with me today. If this video resonated with you in any way, I'd really appreciate you taking a moment to like and subscribe. Sharing this video helps it reach someone else who may need it, and that support truly makes a difference. If you'd like to keep coming back, make sure to turn on the notification bell so you don't miss future videos. I appreciate you being here, and I'm grateful you chose to spend part of your day with this content. Take care of yourself, move at your own pace, and I'll see you next time.